leading to the flight of capital from the securities exchange, and the mix of taxation and interest is not working. The big headline point there is the budget deficit of 768 billion this year, anticipated to be 760 billion next year. Where do you get that data? From the budget policy statement and the midterm expenditure framework. Those are the same numbers in a slide. What you will see there is continued increment of government spending, and if the committee permits, economists think about cost of living or inflation as too much money chasing too few goods. So if you want to bring inflation down, then you have to slow down on expenditure. You don't accelerate expenditure. Now, what the combination of policies is doing is to increase expenditure. Yeah, and you are increasing that expenditure by borrowing. So you are suffering a double whammy. Of course, you will ask us, how then can you reduce government expenditure? What can you do? Well, first of all, eliminate corruption and theft of public resources, eliminate waste, inefficiencies, and imprudent use of public resources. To give you an example, last financial year, last quarter of financial year, so June, May, April, or May, April, June of this past financial year, 193.4 billion went to domestic and international travel. Compare that, for example, to what is expected from the housing tax, which is 70 billion. Meaning, if we did not travel, we may not have needed to collect the housing tax. You could have financed it by just stopping excessive travel. When you look at social protection, which is being reduced, when you look at the resources to counties that are not growing, all of those things could have been resolved if we avoided excessive expenditure. The other thing that happens when you're borrowing, the other thing that happens when you're borrowing is that, of course, you have to pay. So debt service, what is the issue here? The issue is that debt service is now 67% of actual tax collection. Okay, and that slide shows you where is the source of this data. Again, budget review and budget outlook, budget review and economic outlook, as well as the financial statement for this financial year. The point being, can you really grow taxation by 530 billion, which is what is anticipated this year, and can you grow it at a time when the economic conditions are so poor? What is the effect of excessive borrowing? You squeeze out the private sector, and that is what that slide, again, from the quarterly economic review by Treasury, that is what it is showing you. That the spread, the difference between what depositors are being paid by banks and what government is paying those same banks to borrow that money, that's the spread, and what you see there, it is growing. The effect of it is to squeeze out the private sector. And I think FKE were before us, and they explained this point very strongly. This is what FKE was saying, that this, the securities exchange is now considered the worst performing. Not considered, that is what the data is showing, the drop being what is on the slide before you. Economic growth, because when you squeeze private sector to the corner, then there is no economic growth. And this is exactly what is happening. If you compare growth quarter to quarter, what you will find is that economic growth has flatlined. Yeah? So with the exception of the COVID recovery in 2021, when you look at quarter two, basically it has flatlined. We dig deeper in two slides. What really, this inflation or this cost of living, what's inside it, what is driving it? That's the way it is. Food and fuel. So the policies we pursue must address food and fuel costs. But this is the outcome of what has happened in the last 12 months. And you can see, again, this is a data and graphic from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics. Everything, with the exception of one item there, has gone up, with percentages of between 7 and 60 something percent. Same there with non-food items like fuel. What you will notice, in fact, this is 1 month old now. This is before the dramatic increase in fuel price this September. So those numbers can only get worse. I know we are fond of blaming international crude prices. That is not fair to anybody because it's not true. That is, and this data again, published by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, that is the way crude prices are behaving. They are on average 34% lower than they were last year. So it cannot be that they are the reason fuel prices are going up. What is to be done? We must stimulate production by reducing interest rates. We must reduce taxation on energy, on fuel, on food. Taxation to SMEs is the only way you can stimulate production. We must have a balanced budget. Some have argued not possible. It is possible. In 2003, 2004, 2005, you had a balanced budget and you were able to implement the items of Article 43, like free primary education, zero-based budgeting, and so on. I have to move faster. Finance Act 2023 should repeal it in its entirety. In any case, the broad policy point is reduced taxation.